There's something nobody tells you about the twin flame journey. Something that will probably make you uncomfortable, maybe even angry. But if you're watching this right now, your soul already knows it's true. You've been running in circles, haven't you? Chasing, waiting, hoping that if you just love hard enough, if you just prove yourself one more time, if you just become what they need, they'll finally see you. They'll finally choose you. They'll finally come back. But here's what Carl Jung discovered through decades of studying the human psyche, and what ancient mystics knew long before him. The moment you start chasing is the exact moment you lose them. Not because they don't love you, not because the connection isn't real, but because you've reversed the very energetic law that makes twin flame union possible. And I know what you're thinking right now. You're thinking, but I've tried everything, I've given space, I've worked on myself, I've let go 1,000 times, and still nothing changes. Still they're distant, still you're alone. And that's exactly why you need to hear what I'm about to share with you. Because maybe, just maybe, you haven't truly let go. Not in the way Jung meant, not in the way that actually shifts the energetic field between two souls. Most people believe letting go means detachment. It means building walls. It means pretending you don't care. But that's not letting go. That's just another form of control, another strategy to make them come back. And your twin flame, whether they consciously know it or not, can feel that energy. They can sense the manipulation beneath the silence, the neediness disguised as independence, the fear masquerading as strength. Jung understood something profound about the masculine and feminine energies that exist in every connection, regardless of the gender of the bodies involved. He understood that there's always one soul that carries the feminine principle and one that carries the masculine principle. And these aren't roles you choose. They're energetic truths you're born into within that specific dynamic. The feminine is the one who creates the magnetic field, the one who chooses, the one who allows or denies. The masculine is the one who responds to that field, the one who aligns, the one who pursues what has already opened to receive him. But here's where everything falls apart. Here's where the entire twin flame journey derails for millions of people. The feminine, conditioned by a society that taught her to chase, to prove, to earn love, abandons her natural role. She becomes the pursuer, the convincer, the one running after someone who's running away. And the masculine, feeling this energetic reversal, instinctively retreats. Not because he doesn't love her, but because something fundamental feels wrong. The polarity is inverted, the natural order is disrupted, and no amount of effort, no amount of love, no amount of sacrifice can fix what's energetically backward. Can you feel it? That moment when you knew, deep down, that the more you tried, the further they went? Drop a comment if that's your story. Because you're not alone in this. Jung spent years working with people trapped in this exact pattern. People who loved deeply, authentically, but who were energetically misaligned with the very thing they wanted most. And what he discovered changed everything. He discovered that the feminine must move first, yes, but not in the direction everyone thinks. Not toward the masculine, toward herself. When the feminine stops abandoning herself and returns to her own center, when she stops making the masculine the source of her happiness and becomes that source herself, something miraculous happens in the invisible space between two souls. The magnetic field shifts. The runner stops running, and the union that seemed impossible suddenly becomes inevitable. But this isn't about manipulation. This isn't about playing games or using reverse psychology. This is about remembering who you are beneath all the conditioning, beneath all the fear, beneath all the desperate need to be chosen by someone else. Because here's the truth Jung knew. The truth that will set you free. You were never meant to be chosen. You were meant to choose. And when you finally understand what that means, when you finally embody it, everything changes. Not just with your twin flame, but with your entire existence. So if you're ready to stop running in circles, if you're ready to understand why you're the one who must initiate the final stage, and if you're ready to discover what that actually means in practice, stay with me. Because what I'm about to share isn't just theory. It's not just beautiful spiritual concepts. It's the energetic mechanics of how two souls recognize each other, lose each other, and find each other again. But this time, consciously. This time, whole. Carl Jung had a patient once. He never mentioned her name in his writings, but he documented her case extensively because it represented something he saw over and over in his practice. A pattern so common, so heartbreaking, that he felt compelled to understand its deeper mechanism. This woman was convinced she'd met her soulmate. The connection was unlike anything she'd experienced before. When they met, it felt like recognition, like coming home, like every cell in her body knew this person from lifetimes before. And maybe they did, but here's what happened. The more she felt that recognition, the more she clung, the more she tried to keep him close, the more she rearranged her entire life around his availability, his moods, his needs. She canceled plans when he called. She suppressed her opinions when they differed from his. She made herself smaller, quieter, more convenient. She thought she was loving him, but Jung saw something else. He saw a woman abandoning herself. He saw someone giving away her power in exchange for crumbs of attention. He saw the feminine energy, which should have been a force of magnetic choice, becoming a force of desperate pursuit. And the man, predictably, pulled away. Not all at once, but gradually. He became more distant, more unavailable, more confused about what he wanted. She interpreted this as a sign that she needed to try harder, to love better, to prove herself more convincingly. So she did. She chased harder. She loved louder. She gave more. And he ran faster. This cycle continued for 2 years. 2 years of her life consumed by a connection that brought more pain than peace. 2 years of analyzing every text message, every moment of closeness followed by weeks of silence, every promise that dissolved into air. Jung worked with her patiently, trying to help her see what she couldn't see from inside the storm. He tried to show her that her obsession with union was actually preventing union, that her need to complete herself through this man was the very thing making her incomplete. But she couldn't hear it. Not yet. Not while she still believed that love meant sacrifice, that devotion meant self-abandonment, that loyalty meant tolerating behavior that disrespected her soul. Then something shifted, not because of anything Jung said, though his words had planted seeds, but because she reached a breaking point. A moment where the pain of staying in the pattern became greater than the fear of letting it go. If you're reading these words and you feel like you're preparing something deeper to help you with this journey, know that I've created something with a lot of care. It's in the first pinned comment for when you feel ready to take that next step. But for now, let's continue. She made a decision. Not a decision to give up on him, but a decision to give up on the version of herself that had been living only in reference to him. She started saying no when she didn't want to say yes. She started filling her calendar with things that mattered to her, not things that might increase her chances of seeing him. She returned to friendships she'd neglected. She pursued creative projects she'd abandoned. She started going to therapy not to figure out how to win him back, but to understand why she'd lost herself in the first place. And here's what Jung observed. As she did this work, as she genuinely redirected her energy back toward herself, her entire energetic signature changed. She stopped emitting the frequency of lack. She stopped radiating the energy of someone who needed rescuing, who needed validation, who needed someone else to make her feel whole. Instead, she began emanating something entirely different. Completeness. Not the false completeness of someone pretending not to care, but the real completeness of someone who had found her center again. Someone who remembered she was whole before she met him and would be whole whether he stayed or left. Jung documented what happened next because it confirmed everything he'd been theorizing about masculine and feminine energies. Within 3 weeks of this internal shift, the man reached out. Not with vague breadcrumbs, not with late-night texts that led nowhere, but with genuine interest, with consistent presence, with the kind of attention and care she'd been begging for during those 2 years. But here's the part of the story that matters most. When he came back, when he finally showed up the way she'd dreamed, she realized something profound. She didn't need him anymore. Not in the desperate life or death way she'd needed him before. She still felt love, still felt attraction, still recognized the depth of their connection. But now she could see him clearly, could see the relationship clearly. And from that place of clarity, she could make a conscious choice. Not a choice driven by fear of losing him, not a choice driven by the need to fill a void, but a choice driven by genuine desire to share her life with someone who matched her energy, her effort, her level of emotional maturity. In the end, she chose to walk away, not because she didn't love him, but because she loved herself more. And Jung noted in his writings that this was the moment she truly individuated, the moment she became whole, the moment she stopped seeking her other half and realized she'd never been half to begin with. This is what Jung meant by the feminine moving first. Not moving toward the masculine, but moving toward herself, moving into her own sovereignty, moving into the magnetic power that comes from being complete, not from being completed. Let's talk about what actually happens in the space between two people when one of them is operating from need and the other is operating from wholeness. Because this isn't just psychology, this is energetics. This is quantum mechanics applied to human connection. Jung understood, long before modern science caught up, that we're not separate beings bumping into each other randomly. We're energetic fields constantly influencing, responding to, and co-creating with each other. Every thought you have about your twin flame sends out a frequency. Every emotion you feel toward them creates a vibration. Every action you take, or don't take, shifts the energetic dynamic between you. And your twin flame, whether they're consciously aware of it or not, is reading those frequencies constantly. When you're in a state of lack, when you're thinking thoughts like, I need them to be happy, I'm incomplete without them, why won't they choose me? You're broadcasting a very specific energetic signature. You're sending out a signal that says, I am not enough. I am empty. I need you to fill me. And the masculine energy, especially if it's healthy masculine energy, will instinctively move away from that signal, not because it's cruel, not because it doesn't care, but because healthy masculine energy is drawn to the fullness of the feminine, not to her emptiness. Think of it this way. The sun doesn't chase the earth. The sun simply shines, constantly, powerfully, without need or attachment to whether the earth receives its light. And the earth, in its natural rhythm, turns toward the sun. It opens to receive. It allows the light to nourish it. But if the earth were somehow chasing the sun, if it were leaving its orbit trying to get closer, the entire solar system would collapse. The natural order would be destroyed. This is what happens when the feminine pursues the masculine. The cosmic order of attraction collapses. The polarity that creates magnetism disappears. And both souls end up lost, disconnected, unable to find their way back to each other. Jung observed this in every relationship dynamic he studied. Not just romantic relationships, but all relationships where there was an energetic exchange between masculine and feminine principles. He noticed that when each person stayed in their natural energetic role, harmony was effortless. Attraction was natural. Connection deepened organically. But when roles reversed, when the feminine became aggressive and the masculine became passive, or when the feminine became needy and the masculine became avoidant, the entire dynamic became strained, forced, exhausting. And in twin flame connections, this reversal is especially devastating, because twin flames are meant to mirror each other's souls. They're meant to reflect back the parts of you that need healing, integration, wholeness. When you're operating from lack, from need, from desperation, your twin flame mirrors that back to you by becoming unavailable. Not to punish you, but to show you what you're doing to yourself. You're unavailable to yourself. You've abandoned yourself. You've made them more important than your own soul. And until you see that, until you feel the pain of that self-abandonment deeply enough to choose differently, they will remain unavailable. This is the mirror. This is the teaching. This is why the twin flame journey is called a journey of awakening, not a journey of romance. Because it's designed to break you open, to shatter every illusion you have about love, about yourself, about what you need to be happy. And when those illusions shatter, when you're standing in the rubble of everything you thought was true, you have a choice. You can keep trying to rebuild the same illusions, Keep chasing the same patterns. Keep hoping that if you just try harder, sacrifice more, love louder, something will change. Or you can use the rubble as raw material for something entirely new. You can use the pain as fuel for transformation. You can use the emptiness as space to discover who you are when you're not defined by someone else's presence or absence. Jung called this the process of individuation, the journey of becoming a whole, integrated, authentic individual. And he believed this was the most important work any human being could do. Not because it makes you successful or powerful or impressive to others, but because it makes you real. It makes you sovereign. It makes you capable of love that isn't transaction, connection that isn't addiction, devotion that isn't self-betrayal. And when the feminine individuates, when she truly becomes whole within herself, the masculine feels it, even if he's on the other side of the world, even if they haven't spoken in months or years. He feels the shift in the energetic field between them, because suddenly, she's no longer the person who needed him. She's no longer the energy of lack, of pursuit, of desperation. She's become magnetic, not because she's trying to attract him, but because wholeness is inherently magnetic. Completeness naturally draws in experiences and people that match its frequency. And if he's truly her twin flame, if there's a genuine soul contract between them, he will respond to that magnetism. Not out of obligation, not out of guilt, but out of authentic desire. Because now, for the first time, he's not being asked to fill a void. He's being invited to dance with an equal, to co-create with someone who's already complete, to build something beautiful with someone who doesn't need him, but genuinely wants him. But here's where most people get tripped up. Here's where the concept of letting go becomes distorted into something that's actually just another form of control. You hear all this talk about becoming whole, about choosing yourself, about being complete, and your ego, clever as it is, turns it into a strategy. You think, okay, if I stop chasing, they'll come back. If I focus on myself, they'll notice. If I become whole, they'll want me. And so you start performing wholeness. You start faking sovereignty. You post pictures of yourself looking happy. You talk about how much you're growing. You fill your schedule with activities designed to show them and yourself that you're fine without them. But underneath all of it, there's still the same energy, the same need, the same attachment, the same desperation, just dressed up in spiritual language and self-help concepts. And your twin flame, because they're your mirror, will feel the inauthenticity of it. They'll sense that you're still operating from the same place, just using different tactics. Jung warned about this extensively. He called it the inflation of the ego. When the ego takes spiritual concepts and uses them to strengthen itself, rather than allowing those concepts to dissolve the ego's grip. True wholeness isn't something you perform, it's something you become. And you become it not by doing more, but by stopping. Stopping the constant monitoring of their social media. Stopping the analysis of what every little interaction means. Stopping the rehearsal of conversations you hope to have. Stopping the fantasy of how good it will feel when they finally come back. You stop all of it, not because you're trying to make them come back, but because you're exhausted. Because you realize that the energy you've been pouring into this obsession could be nourishing your own soul instead. Because you finally understand in your bones that no person, no matter how deeply you love them, is worth abandoning yourself. Have you reached that point yet? That moment where you're just tired of your own patterns? If you have, I want you to comment one word: enough. Because that single word is the beginning of everything changing. This is the threshold Jung talked about. The moment of true surrender. Not the kind of surrender where you give up and become bitter, but the kind where you release your grip on how you think things should be and open to how things actually are. And here's what's on the other side of that threshold. Freedom. Not the freedom of not caring, but the freedom of caring deeply while also being okay if it doesn't work out the way you hoped. The freedom of loving someone while also loving yourself more. The freedom of wanting union while also being complete in your solitude. This is the paradox at the heart of the twin flame journey. You can only attract what you don't need. You can only receive what you're not grasping for. You can only experience union when you're already whole. And this isn't cruel. This isn't the universe playing games with you. This is the natural law of energy. Desperation repels. Wholeness attracts. Need creates distance. Sovereignty creates magnetism. When you finally stop performing and start being, when you genuinely choose yourself, not as a strategy but as an act of self-love, you'll know. Because you'll feel different, not happier necessarily, not more confident in some loud, obvious way, but more settled, more at peace, more real. You'll stop checking your phone every 5 minutes hoping they've reached out. You'll stop constructing entire narratives about what they might be thinking or feeling. You'll stop living in the future fantasy of reunion and start living in the actual present of your own existence. And in that present, you'll discover something unexpected. You'll discover that you're actually okay, that your life, even without them in it, has meaning, beauty, purpose, that you're capable of joy, of creativity, of connection with others, that you're not half of something waiting to be completed. You're already whole. You always were. Jung believed that we don't actually fall in love with people. We fall in love with the projections we place on them. We see in them the parts of ourselves we've disowned, rejected, not yet integrated. And the intensity of twin flame connections comes from the fact that these projections are so accurate, so powerful, because on a soul level, they are showing us ourselves. But until you withdraw those projections, until you take back the power you've given them to determine your worth, your happiness, your sense of completeness, you can't truly love them. You can only need them, and need isn't love. Need is fear wearing love's costume. Real love only becomes possible when you don't need the other person, when you're choosing them from a place of abundance, not lack, when you're offering your wholeness to meet theirs, not your brokenness seeking to be fixed. This is what the feminine must understand if she wants conscious union with her twin flame. She must stop needing him, not by building walls, not by pretending not to care, but by genuinely filling herself up so completely with self-love, self-nourishment, self-validation, that his presence or absence no longer determines her emotional state. And when she reaches that state, when she's truly sovereign, everything shifts. Let me tell you what sovereignty actually looks like in practice, because I think there's a lot of confusion about this. Sovereignty doesn't mean you become cold. It doesn't mean you stop caring. It doesn't mean you build walls around your heart and refuse to be vulnerable. Sovereignty means you become the authority in your own life. You become the primary source of your own love, validation, and sense of worth. You stop giving that power away to anyone else, no matter how much you love them. A sovereign feminine doesn't wait for the masculine to text first, but she also doesn't text him obsessively. She simply lives her life, and if she feels genuinely moved to reach out, she does. But the outcome doesn't determine her emotional state. A sovereign feminine doesn't monitor his social media to see what he's doing, not because she's disciplined or strong-willed, but because she's genuinely more interested in her own life than in tracking his. A sovereign feminine doesn't make herself available whenever he calls after weeks of silence, not as punishment, but because she has plans, commitments, a life that doesn't revolve around his inconsistent availability. She doesn't rearrange herself to accommodate him unless it genuinely aligns with what she wants. A sovereign feminine can receive love, attention, affection when it's offered, without immediately attaching to it, without making it mean something about her worth, without turning it into a story about the future. She can enjoy the moment for what it is, without needing it to be more. A sovereign feminine can also walk away from inconsistency, disrespect, breadcrumbing, hot and cold behavior, without drama, without anger, without needing to punish or teach him a lesson. She simply recognizes that the energy doesn't match hers, and she calmly, lovingly chooses herself instead. This is what Jung meant when he talked about the individuated feminine. Someone who knows her value so deeply that she doesn't need external validation to confirm it. Someone who loves herself so completely that she won't tolerate treatment that contradicts that love. Someone who's so rooted in her own center that she can't be swayed, manipulated, or convinced to abandon herself for anyone. And when the masculine encounters this energy, especially if he's her true twin flame, it stops him in his tracks. Because most of the women he's encountered have been willing to abandon themselves for him. Most have been willing to tolerate his inconsistency, his unavailability, his confusion. Most have been so desperate for his love that they've made themselves smaller, quieter, more convenient. But the sovereign feminine doesn't do any of that. She stands in her truth. She honors her boundaries. She loves him, yes, but she loves herself more. And that energy is intoxicating to the healthy masculine, because finally, he's not being asked to fill a void. Finally, he's not responsible for someone else's happiness. Finally, he's meeting an equal, someone who doesn't need him, but genuinely wants him, someone who's complete on her own, but chooses to share that completeness with him. This is what creates the possibility of conscious union. Not two halves finding each other, but two wholes choosing each other. Not two people completing each other, but two people complementing each other. Not two souls merging into one, but two souls dancing together while maintaining their individual integrity. Jung saw this in the rare couples who managed to maintain deep, passionate, conscious relationships over decades. He noticed they all had one thing in common. Each person was individuated. Each person was whole. Each person had done the work of becoming complete within themselves before attempting to build something together. And because of that foundation, their relationship wasn't based on need. It was based on choice. It wasn't sustained by fear of losing each other. It was sustained by genuine desire to grow together. It wasn't diminished by conflict or challenge. It was deepened by their ability to navigate those moments while maintaining their individual centers. This is the goal of the twin flame journey, though most people don't realize it. The goal isn't to get them back. The goal isn't to achieve union at any cost. The goal is to become so whole, so complete, so sovereign within yourself that you're capable of conscious love. Love that doesn't diminish you. Love that doesn't require you to abandon yourself. Love that enhances your life rather than consuming it. And here's the beautiful paradox. When you reach that place of genuine sovereignty, when you truly become whole within yourself, one of two things will happen. Either your twin flame will recognize the shift and be drawn back into your orbit, ready now for conscious union because you're both operating from wholeness rather than lack. Or you'll realize that they were never your twin flame to begin with. They were a catalyst, a teacher, a mirror, someone who came into your life to break you open so you could discover who you really are. Underneath all the conditioning, all the wounds, all the stories you'd been telling yourself about love and worth and belonging. And both outcomes are beautiful. Both outcomes are exactly what your soul needs. Because the real twin flame, the real other half of your soul, isn't another person. It's you. The you that you abandoned when you learned it wasn't safe to be yourself. The you that you rejected when the world told you that you were too much or not enough. The you that you betrayed every time you made someone else more important than your own soul. The twin flame journey is about reuniting with that part of yourself. About becoming whole by integrating everything you've disowned, denied, projected onto others. And when you do that work, when you truly come home to yourself, you become magnetic. Not just to your supposed twin flame, but to all experiences, opportunities, and people who resonate with your elevated frequency. You become someone who naturally attracts healthy, conscious, mature love, because you're no longer a vibrational match for anything less. Now, let's address the question that's probably burning in your mind right now. How do I actually do this? How do I stop needing them? How do I become whole when I feel so broken? How do I choose myself when every cell in my body is screaming for them? Because I know that everything I've shared so far might make sense intellectually, but emotionally you're still in pain. You're still longing, you're still hoping that maybe, somehow, there's a shortcut to this process. There isn't. I wish I could tell you differently. I wish I could give you a technique or a practice that would instantly transform your need into wholeness. But Jung understood that real transformation doesn't work that way. It's not a light switch you flip. It's a gradual process of becoming. It's a daily practice of choosing yourself over and over, even when it hurts, even when it feels impossible, even when every part of you wants to go back to the old patterns. So let me give you the practical steps. Not as a formula, but as a framework you can adapt to your own journey. First, you need to get brutally honest with yourself about what you've been doing. You need to look at all the ways you've abandoned yourself in pursuit of this connection. All the times you said yes when you meant no. All the times you made yourself smaller to make them comfortable. All the times you suppressed your truth to avoid conflict or rejection. Write it down. All of it. Not to shame yourself, but to see clearly what you've been doing. Because you can't change what you can't see. And most people are so deep in their patterns that they don't even realize how much they've given away. Second, you need to start reclaiming your energy. Literally. Every moment you spend thinking about them, obsessing over them, analyzing their behavior, is energy you're sending in their direction. Energy that could be nourishing you instead. So you practice redirection. Every time you catch yourself thinking about them, you gently, without judgment, redirect your attention to yourself, to your breath, to your body, to what you're feeling, to what you need in this moment. This isn't about suppressing thoughts of them. It's about training yourself to return to your own center, over and over, 1,000 times a day if necessary, until returning to yourself becomes more natural than losing yourself in thoughts of them. What would change in your life if you took all that energy you've been giving them and gave it to yourself instead? Really sit with that question. And if it moves something in you, share what comes up in the comments. Third, you need to start filling your own cup. You need to actively, deliberately give yourself everything you've been hoping to receive from them. If you want attention, give yourself attention. If you want appreciation, appreciate yourself. If you want affection, treat yourself with affection. If you want someone to see you, truly see you, start seeing yourself. This might feel awkward at first. It might feel silly or impossible. But it's the most important work you can do. Because every time you give yourself what you've been hoping to receive from them, you break the pattern of external dependency. You start to realize that you actually can meet your own needs, that you're not helpless or incomplete, that you have everything you need within yourself. Fourth, you need to grieve. This is the part most people skip, and it's why they stay stuck in the pattern. You need to grieve the fantasy of who you thought they were. Grieve the future you imagined with them. Grieve the version of yourself who believed that love required self-abandonment. Let yourself feel the sadness, the disappointment, the anger, the heartbreak, not as a way to stay stuck in it, but as a way to move through it. Because what you resist persists. What you allow to move through you completes itself and leaves space for something new. And if you're feeling right now that you want something to support you more deeply through this process, I want to gently remind you that there's a resource I've prepared with great care. You'll find it in the first pinned comment. It's there for when you feel ready. Fifth, you need to rebuild your life around your own desires, not around the possibility of union. You need to make plans that excite you, pursue goals that matter to you, cultivate friendships that nourish you, engage in activities that make you feel alive, not as a distraction, not as a way to avoid the pain, but as a genuine reclaiming of your own existence. Because your life is happening right now, not in some future moment when they finally come back, not in some fantasy reunion where everything is perfect. Right now. And every moment you spend waiting for them is a moment you're not actually living. Sixth, you need to learn to be alone without being lonely. This is perhaps the hardest part for many people, but it's essential. You need to develop a relationship with solitude, to discover that being alone doesn't mean being lonely, that you can actually enjoy your own company, that you're interesting, that you're enough, that you don't need anyone else to make you feel complete. This doesn't happen overnight. It takes practice. It takes sitting with the discomfort of silence, of stillness, of just being with yourself without distraction. But on the other side of that discomfort is a kind of peace that no external relationship can provide. A peace that comes from knowing deeply that you're okay on your own. And seventh, you need to practice boundaries. With them, if they're still in contact. With yourself and your own thoughts and patterns. With anyone who doesn't honor your worth. Boundaries aren't walls. They're not punishments. They're simply clear statements of what you will and won't accept in your life. And every time you honor a boundary, every time you choose yourself over the fear of losing someone, you strengthen your sovereignty. You prove to yourself that you're trustworthy, that you'll protect yourself, that you won't abandon yourself no matter how much you love someone else. There's a question I haven't addressed yet, and it's probably the one causing you the most suffering. What if I do all this work and they still don't come back? What if I become whole, sovereign, complete, and union still doesn't happen? This question is important because it reveals something. It reveals that part of you is still treating sovereignty as a strategy. Part of you is still doing this work to get them back, not for its own sake. And Jung would tell you that this is exactly why you need to keep going deeper. Because true individuation, true wholeness, true sovereignty, isn't contingent on any external outcome. It's valuable in and of itself. Not because it might bring your twin flame back, but because it makes you free. Think about what your life would look like if you were truly free from the need for their validation, their presence, their love. If you woke up every morning feeling complete, regardless of whether they were in your life or not. If you could pursue your dreams, build meaningful connections, experience joy and purpose without the constant ache of their absence. If you could love them from a distance, without suffering, without attachment, without the desperate hope that someday, somehow, things will be different. That's freedom. And it's available to you right now. Not when they come back. Not when you achieve union. Right now. But you have to want it more than you want them. You have to choose it more consistently than you choose the fantasy of reunion. You have to value your own peace more than you value the intensity of the connection. And I know that sounds impossible, because the twin flame connection is intense, it's all-consuming. It feels like nothing else matters, like you'd give up everything just to be with them. But that intensity isn't love. That intensity is your soul screaming at you to wake up, to see something, to learn something, to integrate something. And what it's trying to show you is this. You've been giving your power away. You've been making someone else responsible for your happiness, your wholeness, your sense of self. You've been living as if you're incomplete, as if you need them to be whole. And your soul, in its infinite wisdom, created this impossible situation to force you to reclaim that power, to remember that you're already whole, to discover that you don't need anyone to complete you because you were never incomplete to begin with. This is the real reason the divine feminine must move first in the final stage. Not because she's more spiritual or more evolved, but because she's the one who's been giving her power away. She's the one who's been operating from lack instead of abundance. She's the one who needs to remember who she is. And when she does, when she finally reclaims her sovereignty and establishes herself in her own completeness, she changes the entire energetic dynamic, not through manipulation, not through strategy, but through genuine transformation. She becomes magnetic because she's no longer repelling. She becomes attractive because she's no longer needy. She becomes irresistible because she's no longer chasing. And the masculine, if he's truly her twin flame, if there's a genuine soul contract between them, will feel this shift. He'll feel the space she's created, the sovereignty she's embodying, the wholeness she's radiating, and he'll be drawn to it. Not out of obligation, not out of guilt, but out of authentic desire. Because now, for the first time, he can approach without being consumed. He can love without being needed. He can commit without being trapped. He can meet her as an equal. But here's what you need to understand. Even if he doesn't come back, even if union doesn't manifest in this lifetime, you still win. Because you've found yourself. You've become whole. You've discovered that you're complete, powerful, magnetic, sovereign. You've learned that love doesn't require self-abandonment. That connection doesn't require sacrifice. That devotion doesn't require betrayal of your own soul. And that knowledge, that embodiment, that way of being, will transform every relationship in your life. Not just with romantic partners, but with friends, family, colleagues, and most importantly, with yourself. You'll never again settle for crumbs when you deserve the whole feast. You'll never again tolerate behavior that diminishes you. You'll never again abandon yourself in the hopes that someone else will save you. Because you've saved yourself. And once you know you can do that, once you know you're capable of coming back to yourself no matter how lost you get, you become unstoppable. Not in some aggressive masculine way, but in the quiet, powerful way of the feminine who knows her worth, who trusts her intuition, who honors her boundaries, who chooses herself first, always, without apology or explanation. This is what Jung meant by individuation. This is what the mystics meant by enlightenment. This is what your soul has been trying to teach you through this entire painful, beautiful, impossible journey. You don't need a twin flame to be whole. You don't need union to be complete. You don't need anyone's love to validate your worth. You are already everything you've been searching for in them. You've just forgotten. And this journey, as painful as it's been, is simply about remembering. So here we are. At the end of this journey through the depths of the twin flame dynamic, through Jung's understanding of masculine and feminine energies, through the painful but necessary process of individuation. And if you're still here, if you've stayed with me through all of this, it means something. It means your soul is ready. Ready to stop running. Ready to stop chasing. Ready to come home to yourself. I want to leave you with one final thought. One final reflection that I hope will stay with you long after you finish watching this video. The twin flame journey was never about them. It was always about you. About remembering who you are beneath all the wounds, all the conditioning, all the stories you've been telling yourself about love and worth and belonging. It was about breaking you open so you could discover the wholeness that was always there, waiting beneath the brokenness. It was about shattering every illusion so you could finally see the truth, that you are complete, that you are sovereign, that you are enough. Not because you achieved something or proved something or won someone's love, but simply because you exist. Your worth isn't contingent on anyone choosing you. Your completeness isn't dependent on anyone seeing you. Your wholeness isn't determined by anyone loving you. You are already everything you need to be. Right now. In this moment. Exactly as you are. And when you truly know that, when you embody that, when you live from that truth, everything changes. Not because the external circumstances change, though they often do, but because you've changed. You've stopped seeking outside of yourself what can only be found within. You've stopped giving your power away to someone who may or may not be capable of meeting you where you are. You've stopped making your happiness contingent on variables you can't control. And in that stopping, in that returning to yourself, you find the very thing you've been searching for all along. Peace, wholeness, freedom, love that doesn't hurt, connection that doesn't diminish, devotion that doesn't require self-betrayal. This is what's waiting for you on the other side of this journey. Not necessarily union with your twin flame, though that may happen, but something far more valuable. Union with yourself. The return to your own soul. The remembering of your own divinity. And if in this moment you feel that you're ready to begin this journey back to yourself in a deeper, more supported way, I want to invite you, with so much tenderness, to something I've created from the heart. It's our ebook, Your Pain Was Not in Vain, a Jungian guide to transforming the pain of impossible love into self-knowledge and inner strength. This guide will walk with you through 30 days of transformation, helping you understand why this love happened, what it reveals about your soul, and how to use it as a catalyst to free yourself from the past, strengthen your self-worth, and open space for more conscious relationships. Through Carl Jung's psychology, you'll discover that your pain has purpose, that this journey, as difficult as it's been, has been preparing you for something beautiful. You'll find it in the first pinned comment, if you feel it might support you right now. And because you've stayed with me until the very end, I have one more request. I want to know that these words reached you, that they meant something, that they moved something in your soul. If this video spoke to you, if it helped you see something you needed to see, if it gave you the courage to finally choose yourself, would you do me the honor of sharing that in the comments? Not for the algorithm, not for the channel, but so that the others who are still suffering, still stuck in the pattern, can see your words and know they're not alone. Tell us where you are in your journey. Tell us what you're choosing now. Tell us how you're going to move first, not toward them, but toward yourself. And if you found value in this conversation, if you want more content like this that goes deep into the psychology of love, relationships, and self-discovery, I'd be so grateful if you'd subscribe to this channel. Hit that notification bell so you don't miss future videos. And please share this with someone who needs to hear it. Someone who's suffering in silence. Someone who's abandoned themselves for a love that isn't meeting them. Someone who needs to remember that they're already whole. Thank you from the depths of my heart for being here. for having the courage to look at these patterns, for being willing to do the hard work of coming back to yourself, for choosing, even in the midst of so much pain, to keep growing, keep learning, keep becoming. Your soul knows why you're here. Trust that, honor that, and most importantly, choose yourself. Always, in every moment, no matter what. You are worth it. You always have been. I'll see you in the next video.